Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Our second talk today, we're going to talk about the Quantify, which is sort of the little brother of the Therify that we talked about yesterday, and the geometry of sound and the sound of geometry. So the Quantify is also using some Tesla technology in these a little miniature Tesla coil, and it utilizes two different coils, and you can put multiple plasma tubes around them. And by connecting tubes in this way, you can create, because the plasma is fractal antenna, as we were talking about yesterday, you can change the spacing on them to distribute the waves throughout your space. With the tube configuration. And one of the main things about, Therify is more like some people use it in their home, but more like a clinical system to have in a clinic or whatever, but the Quantify is sort of a smaller home version. And a lot of people use it for conditioning the space because, as we talked about yesterday, when you're running these high voltage electrostatic fields, it conditions the space by charging the atmosphere and everything around you, charging it up with these little charge clusters. So with the Quantify, different than the Therify has a fixed frequency system, but with the Quantify you can add any audio you want to put into it. So you could play just regular music, you play Tibetan monks chanting, or some nice crystal bowls, or any kind of meditation CDs, and using the combination of the sound that you will play through the speakers and then charging the air with the plasma around you, you really drive the feeling of the music into you. A lot of audiophile people say, they hook it up to their hi-fi system, and because they're always looking for the little edge, they'll change every little cable in their system and pay, thousands of dollars for just a cable to connect one unit to another, just because they can hear the difference in that sound. So that's what I was really aiming for with the Quantify, was to make a very high fidelity audio system that incorporated the plasma in your room to condition the space. And so you can set up multiple arrays of these coils. So the kit comes with 2 coils, so it's a stereo configuration. But we've ran big rooms like this, and we could set up like 6 different coils and up to 6 tubes on each station. So when we have like a big dance party or something like that, so people are not only hearing the music, but we can charge up this whole room with the energetics of the plasma itself. And it's quite amazing. So each one of these stations, like if I was doing this room, I'd put 1 in each corner and put 2 in the middle of the room and 2 at the back of the room. And as you separate these apart, each one of these coils again creates a toroidal field around it. And when those, I'm just trying to get the clicking out of here. When the toroidal fields interlap, just like drawing 2 circles, you get a vesica Pisces in the center, sort of that classic shape. That's the sweet spot, the 0 point of the field. So if you wanted to be in that spot, you could find that place. But we've generally found that each field around each one of these stations would be about 20-30 feet. So you can really separate it throughout your house or your space. And a lot of people use these in yoga studios and sacred spaces and things where they want to create that sort of intentional environment. And one of the other applications of it is mitigating 5G or EMF frequencies. We know we're bombarded by EMF these days because, and 5G is the latest one that everybody's understanding. The higher we go up in frequencies, the more these frequencies resonate with your body and biomaterial. And yeah, Brandon Amalani and Natalie and Courtney have just put together this amazing book here that's just being released. One of the most comprehensive, extensive books on EMF. And Brandon also runs blueshield.com, and you can get the book on the website there, and you can come and talk to us about getting a discount code anytime. But so the thing about the human body is it likes to go into sympathetic rhythms with whatever it's being exposed to. And that's part of what sound does. So from ancient times, you know, we started with just basic drum beats and stuff like that. And when everybody gets together in a coherent form, that's what we do. Our body's naturally designed to entrain to signals. So if you're in a room with you know, routers from your Wi-Fi, and you're being exposed from you know, cell towers outside your building, and then everybody in the room also has a cell phone, these waves are compounding and compounding upon each other, and your body is getting heavily affected by them. So the idea behind mitigating them with the Quantify is that it gives something, a more coherent signal to your body to attune to. And so by putting it in your space, you know how you're listening to music, your foot's just naturally tap into the beat. That's just what happens with your whole body, and every cell in your body resonates to whatever it is. So the idea is not that it's blocking EMF or stopping the other EMF, it just gives your body something more coherent to attune to. And your body will naturally know, oh, this is more of a sympathetic rhythm that I can relate to, and it will go to this. Because the problem with 5G and Wi-Fi routers and everything is they're digital signals. And the digital signals are really nasty. I've got a field meter here, and I'm going to go up to my Wi-Fi router.
Wi-Fi router.
There we go. And you can listen to this.
Here, so you can get an idea of the type of pulses and sounds that come out of your router. So this is a tri-field meter. We're using the microwave selection here, which is measures the milliwatts per centimeter square on this bottom scale here.
So 1.2 gigahertz that your router's running at is also what a microwave oven runs at.
It has the router in it, and you can hear it.
And I'm far away from the router at this point.
The signal isn't real strong, but you get an idea of
so as I get closer,
right now,
you see the strength of the field.
Watching video or checking their email even, but we're going to do that, and you'll hear the difference in the transmission.
Yeah, there's no computer pulling data off right now. This is just the Wi-Fi sitting by itself.
Right there on 2.4, is that right?
Yeah, and then, so 24/7, your body's exposed to that as long as you have your router on there. So you hear that noise and the ticking, and as I go towards the router, it just goes crazy.
The signal's great.
So a little irritating just to hear the sound of that alone, right? Those are the kind of things. So can you imagine if you're playing like a nice meditation CD with some crystal bowls or anything like that that's being played through the field, how your body is just going to naturally go to that signal. And then a lot of things people talk about, you know, like certain frequencies are bad, you know, it's like 60 hertz is bad, and these Wi-Fi frequencies are bad. It's not really about the frequencies. There are some frequencies that cause damage to the body being a direct frequency, but it's more about the noise and the incoherentness of the signal. So you can hear that just a random garble that's on there, and if you think of data streams, it's all digital, and there's spikes and peaks, and everything's going left and right. And so that's what you're exposing your body to. And if we get time in a little bit, we'll go into it a bit more. But this is Quantify 1.0 that's been out for, oh geez, I don't even know, maybe 4 or 5 years now. And we just recently upgraded to Quantify 2.0. So the original version had an amplifier built right in, and you could put all kinds of different inputs into it. But it ended up being quite complicated. It's even more complicated to set up than the Therify. So I wanted to simplify it, and I've also been trying to get the fidelity to be as best as it can. And so I ended up being able to miniaturize the circuit and put it in a nice little package like this that has a balanced lines out. And so when you have a balanced line in your sound system, it takes the plus and the minus connection of the signal, and it also has a shield around it. So it's a really good quality. All the hi-fi systems use that for sounding better. So basically now you can just connect to this unit and then run your coils. And like I say, you can run as many coils as you want on it in lots of different configurations. And yeah, so this is some of the amazing photos that Brandon's been able to take. It's very photogenic too. People really appreciate the design and the art. And basically I designed these stands kind of like from the Therify days, and it's symbolic of the Egyptian boat carrying the sun across through the underworld. When the sun sets and rises in the morning, it rides over on this boat, and the moon and the Jed. The Jed is a symbol of power in Egypt. So yeah, it's kind of based on the Therify technology. These were some early versions of the Therify tubes. And we talked a lot about plasma yesterday. And yeah, so just to go a bit of a review about plasma, because a lot of people think, oh, it's some obscure kind of thing, but it's really quite common. Basically all the stars, lightning, even flame of a candle is basically plasma, just ionization of gases. And we are light beings. We talked a lot about that yesterday, and recently there's been some studies done on the actual point of insemination from a male sperm and a female ovum. And when the sperm actually penetrates to the membrane of the ovum, there's a bright flash of plasma that happens. So the spark of life literally starts the instant your cells begin to go together from two cells. And this is sort of a time period of when the sperm just gets to the egg and it starts to get in there penetrating. And as soon as it penetrates, boom, there's a bright flash that comes off of it. And this was done by University of, their name's here, but they realized that it has to do with the zinc. There's a lot of zinc, millions of little particles of zinc that come into there. And as soon as the egg's fertilized, it bursts in this little flash of fluorescent plasma. I'm just trying to remember the name of the people, but they actually showed a video of it here. So it'll start. It's not going to play it now. Let me see if I can pull it up here. There we go. So you see that flash right there, boom, as soon as it enters. So that's just the photonic emissions from the biophotons that are released in the right at conception. So Hans Jenny is a fellow who coined the term cymatics, and he wrote this amazing book and did a lot of experimenting with the sound, the shape of sounds in the harmonic nodes of resonance on different plates, and sound can form all of these beautiful different patterns. And he did all these experiments and made this amazing book of all the different resonance patterns and different frequencies on metal plates. And then he just put sand on a plate and resonate it, and it forms all kinds of geometric patterns according to the sound. So basically the idea of sound forming life forms is linked in this, and talked about right at the beginning of the Bible. In the beginning there was the word and the sound, the vibration, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and then everything kind of existed from that point on. And this shows, when you look at these patterns, how life forms, everything on Earth corresponds to these sound wave patterns. So as just natural resonances that happen throughout the cosmos and here on Earth, life forms into these patterns that are all based on light and sound, basically. So we talked about longitudinal waves yesterday, and sound waves or longitudinal waves are just areas of compression and rarefaction in the air. So as my vocal cords are resonating, I'm pushing these resonant longitudinal waves that travel through the room, come to your eardrums. Your eardrums vibrate with the compression and the rarefaction, and then it goes to neurons that interpret it in your brain, and you hear it as sound. And the basic waveforms that make up sound in sound synthesis, once we started building synthesizers, we started utilizing the basic waveforms that have been used in electronics to compile different waveforms together to make more complex sounds. So the basic waveforms are like a triangle wave, a sine wave, a square wave, and a sawtooth wave. And they all have different feelings to them. So everybody knows that, sound and music and everything like that, it's really tied to the emotional part of the body. So when you listen to, great masterpiece like Mozart or something, you feel the emotions rise in the body, and that's the effect that sound has on us. So just to compare some of the differences in what these waveforms sound like, I'm just going to play. This is a basic sine wave, and right now we're at about 800 hertz. I'll change the frequency. It's up to 1.4 kilohertz and all the way down. 208 hertz. So you hear the smoothness of this compared to a square wave. This is a square wave. Do you feel the difference between the sine and the square? Square is like harsher and more abrupt and can sound like a video game. Because computers and digital signals are all made on these square waves. So here's a sawtooth wave, a triangle wave, and it's sort of in between. Back to the sine wave. So do you feel the difference in, does anybody have a description of what they feel from the kind of waves? Yeah. So when we went from analog to digital, when CDs came out, and the old analog recordings, and everybody, you got rid of their records, and everybody bought all new CDs and stuff like that, because they went, wow, it's amazing, it doesn't skip, and it doesn't have all the crackly noise and stuff like that. So it was really popular for a while, but then people started thinking about it, and they're like, geez, you know, there's something different about how the records sound, and that's because the records are pressed with, just like the sine wave there, in the vinyl itself is all just sine waves that are pressed in it. So it's a smooth analog signal. There's no jumping. And what we did is we did sample rates. So when you look at a sample rate of an audio, you know, it might be 16-bit, 22 kilohertz, and that's how many times the little steps were made. So they emulated the sine wave with the square waves, so little teeny chunks of square waves. I might have a picture here. And so there was a big difference. And then people started to realize, you know, the old records sounded better. And so they went back to the records, and same with the audio systems as well. When we went from tubes, vacuum tubes, and the old tube amplifiers, they consumed a lot of power, but they had a great sound. So even today, audiophiles still, you know, they make and purchase tube amplifiers. Even though they're not electrically very efficient, they sound way better because they're all analog signals in them. And then you can combine all these 4 basic shapes to make all kinds of different waveforms and stuff like that. And you see the modern computer renditions can display them very nicely. So just something about our chemical makeup and what's happening inside of your body when you hear those sounds. Our bodies effectively contain an internal pharmacy that dispenses various chemicals and hormones and everything like that that help us deal with everything in life. For example, if you're in a dangerous situation, you receive a shot of adrenaline, it gives you energy, and you run away from the tiger. And if you do something which feels good and is good for you, you get a dose of serotonin, and that encourages you to do it again. So these are things that are built into our bodies in order to allow us to function in society and the world around us, and be able to maintain homeostasis and keep us alive, basically. So research has revealed that music holds the key to your body's pharmacy and can promote or suppress the release of these chemicals. For instance, loud rhythmic music can increase your adrenaline levels, which keep you awake, and so you can be at a dance party or play your music for a long, boring drive. But in the case of insomnia, relaxed music can help you drop off and go to sleep, depending on the producing chemical noradrenaline in your body. So we use sound to control not only our emotions, but also our physical chemistry and makeup in our body. And so in the early days of sound synthesis, there was a fellow named Bob Moog who came up with this Moog synthesizer. And originally it didn't have a keyboard. He was an electronics guy, and he just made all these analog circuits that can produce and manipulate all these different types of sound waves. And then somebody came to him and said, you know, you needed to be able to control it, rather than, you know, the only way you could control this thing was by turning the knobs and connecting the wires in to complete the circuit to make the sounds. And they said, boy, it'd be nice if you could play it like a real instrument. There was a big controversy back then, is this really an instrument, or what is this thing? So he added a keyboard that had a switch on each key so he could control all the sounds. And that's Bob Moog there. And this has evolved into all kinds of synthesizers that we have today, digital synthesizers and that. And I build synthesizer circuits myself and do a lot with modular and guitars, and connecting analog guitars, changing the digital signals back into analog to control the circuits and that. So I've been experimenting for several years with these types of systems. And everybody about the Quantify has asked, you know, what do I play through there? So there's, you know, this kind of started out with one of Dan Winter's apps, the Flame in the Mind app, and you can generate this similar frequencies to what's in the Therify with it. And there's several other sound frequency apps online that you can purchase, and you can also just play regular music. But I've been working with these synthesizers to generate, tones that are going to affect the body in different ways. As we know through the Rife type technology, over the years, everybody's compiled this sort of a book of Rife frequencies. Rife originally only had like 6 or 7 frequencies that he used in his Rife system. But over the years, we've developed quite a database of frequencies for all kinds of different ailments. And that's just been through natural people experimenting and writing down, hey, this felt good, I had a bad heart arrhythmia or whatever, so I started using this frequency and it helped it out. So we have this anecdotal kind of evidence base of all these frequencies over the years. But what everybody uses in Rife type machines, and what I was doing in the early days with some of the stuff you saw, was using those square waves, because the square waves have the most powerful impact to especially destroy things. So there's the difference between destructive frequencies and constructive frequencies. And Therify is all based on constructive frequencies, because I stopped making destructive frequencies before. We were destroying viruses, bacteria, and stuff like that. But eventually I came to the conclusion that, we shouldn't be trying to target things and kill them off. What if we supported the body in a natural way with natural constructive frequencies? And that's sort of how the Therify evolved. So that's what I'm trying to emulate in some of these analog systems that I'm building. But you can still run, destructive square wave frequencies through the Quantify. And one of the, really popular Rife type generators that's out there is Spooky 2. And a Spooky 2 comes with software that you can use to generate different waveforms. And it also has a database of all the frequencies, so you could literally type in, whatever ailment you're looking for. You can put in spinal meningitis, and it'll pop up a whole list of frequencies for you. So you can connect Spooky 2 through the Quantify, and you can use it to produce these type of frequencies as well. And then there's a fellow that's kind of been talking a lot about lately about the thunderstorm generator, and his name is Malcolm Bendel, and he came up with this whole what he calls the plasma unification model. And he's basically taking all these frequencies that we find in nature, like the circumference of the Earth, and the distance to the Moon, the distance to the Sun, the diameter of the Earth, and the pyramids, and all these things. And he kind of started putting together all of these different relationships between numbers that are found in nature, and created this chart of what he calls the plasmoid unification model. And so I started working with a bunch of these frequencies and because of the harmonic resonance, and then capturing different elements that he's put out in these scales. So everything on these circular rings relates to certain aspects, and he's divided them into these 4 quadrants. So the sun, ether and light, matter and time. And the relationships that he's managed to correlate all these things to, and they fit in beautifully in this chart. And here he's laid them out on a toroidal tube. They all relate to the elements. They relate to everything. He sells this poster, and you can get this poster and have a look at that. And there's quite a few videos that Jordan in Australia has kind of talked a lot about Malcolm Bendel on his YouTube channel, Alchemical Science. And so this is just part of what Malcolm's done over the years. The other part is creating the thunderstorm generator, which is basically an exhaust system that you can add onto your engine, and a front-end engine that feeds plasmoids into an internal combustion engine. And so running these plasmoids, like we talked a lot about yesterday, into the engine and through this exhaust system, it cleans up the exhaust. So you could literally have a generator in this room and fire it up, and instead of everybody dying of carbon monoxide like you would do if you were trying to commit suicide, it converts all the nasties into, the quality of chemical composition that would be the same as air. So it's kind of like a reformation that's happening inside of the thunderstorm generator. But yeah, his frequencies, there's another girl, Sheila Rahman, who's been working with the frequencies and that, and she uses the Quantify and other instruments, and she's like a sound engineer and frequency healer and a musician, and she's kind of taken it on to work with a lot of these frequencies as well. And of course, it's all based on Tesla technology. And over the years, I've built a lot of different Tesla coils, and I probably have made at least a couple hundred different versions of Tesla coils as technology has advanced over the year. Like these latest little miniaturized coils would be like Tesla's dream. Back in his day, he never had, there was before transistors, right? So the biggest problem with making a Tesla coil is you have to switch it really fast. So he relied on a spark gap that just produced a gap in the air to make and break the circuit. And it would be his dream today, once we got to transistors and now we have power MOSFETs that can switch thousands of watts of power, like high amperage, on and off hundreds of thousands of times per second. And that's how these smaller coils run. These ones running at about 1.2 gigahertz. Back in Tesla's days with older coils like this, he could run into the kilohertz, 400 or 500 kilohertz, no problem. But so I've built lots of these coils over the years. Some of the ones in the background on the other photo. This one I call Junior. It's 30 kVA, and it'll shoot lightning out of the top about 20 feet, about 5 million volts. And I've got it all set up to be able to play with that guitar you saw in the first picture, as well as the keyboard, and I can play multiple chords, like multiple notes at the same time on it. And this one here, it's almost finished, is called Big Daddy. And I haven't done the calculations on him, but he's about going to be 50 kVA, and is going to be pretty insane. So this is Junior. I can set up I think it'll play a video here. You can hear what it sounds like. My neighbors love me. Whenever I fire this up, I got a big fenced off yard, and I just closed the fence so nobody can get in there. But they all hear it and they all come running over and stand outside the fence to listen to it. They're just getting there warmed up here. I guess you got here. You can almost feel what it's like standing next to that, like you literally every cell in your body is just resonating with, and your hair stands on end.
That must be a huge field that it creates.
It is massive. Like, the thing about these coils is they're basically like RF transmitters, so I'm sure you can pick up this signal and somebody's listening to that from satellite on the other side of the world or something like that too. So, but that's part of the reason why the Therify and what I do is, like, instead of letting that arc release into the atmosphere, like the original transmitters, that's what Tesla came up with, radio frequency transmission, and that's what he was doing, and realizing that was, and it was Marconi who kind of perfected that, and he kind of ran with it. And you know, Tesla, there was a big battle about who really came up with radio. The radio has always been attributed to Marconi, but you know, it wasn't as much of in Tesla's interest. Tesla was really in the interest of, you know, providing the energy and the power to people. So same with the X-ray. Tesla came up with the original X-ray machine. He produced soft X-rays, and you could put your hand in it and watch real time as you moved your hand around, and they weren't harmful. So Tesla just passed those off, you know. So for Marconi, he's like, yeah, run with the radio circuit and do that. And the X-rays became popularized by Rontgen, and he's, you know, just let those things go because his main interest was in providing power and understanding really what the electricity is and what it does. So yeah, that's basically the Quantify in a nutshell. I'm going to fire it up here so you can see what it does. So I don't know if I can hold the microphone and do this at the same time, but yeah, you can see the idea of, you know, wireless power that Tesla is talking about. So this all just works by induction in the field, and so you can just place as many tubes as you want on there. And that's the other thing I found experimenting in the laboratory is, like, standard light bulbs, you know, they, you know, were rated for 100 watt. They have a tungsten filament in there, and you plug in one light bulb and it uses 100 watts from the circuit. You plug in your next light bulb, 200 watts, 300 watts, the power keeps going up. But with this radiant matter, or radiant energy as Tesla called it, it doesn't matter how many light bulbs you put in. The more light bulbs you put in, it doesn't consume any more power. The power that's being consumed by the coil right now is the power that's consumed by the coil. So you just keep adding tubes and adding tubes and adding tubes. And yeah, Tesla lit his workshop up like that, and yeah, so that's another interesting phenomenon about energy savings and where is the energy coming from, and all of that, and how it interfaces with the vacuum. So, any questions?
You blow your own glass?
Yeah, question is, do I blow my own glass? I have a glass blower. I've made my own, but it's tricky. Glass blowing is like a total art. My glass blower has made a lot of, he's a chemistry glass blower, so he can work with borosilicate. Most glass that you see is just a standard soda glass that, you know, people make vases and things out of, in windows and stuff like this. This type of glass, and it's very strong, you can hammer in nails with it. It's called a borosilicate glass, and they use it in chemistry because it takes a thermal shock. You can heat this up to 100 degrees and pour water on it and it won't break. 100 degrees is the threshold. Pure quartz glass, you can heat up to 1,000 degrees and pour water on it and it won't break. So yeah, the fellow who makes all my glass tubes is probably one of the top glass blowers in North America, if not the world. He's like 5th generation glass blower. Yeah. So, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.